How would you like a 15% discount to my daily email, the stack of stuff, the show notes, discounts to the conference, all of that? All you need to do is text the word show to 33777. You'll get the annual subscription with a 15% discount to my daily email. You'll get the stack of stuff, the links to the show notes, discounts to the conference, and so much more. All you have to do is text the word show, SHOW, to 33777. Text show to 33777.
Welcome to the Eric Erickson Show podcast, Hour 3.
Hello and welcome. It's Eric Erickson here across the United States of America. The phone number 877-973-7425. If you want to be on the program, as always, if you text Eric, E-R-I-C-K, to 33777, you can get the live stream, the show notes, the podcast, all that sort of stuff. I cannot speed up my talking to speed up the show, but so I am on a flight, and I thought the flight was at 5, and it is at 4:30. I got to go to Jacksonville. I mentioned earlier I'm doing a charity event in Jacksonville, Florida tomorrow night at my affiliate WOKV for the local children's hospital, and it's a bourbon event. Donors have paid money, and my flight's been moved up, so I will get out of here and fly. I got to check a bag. I'm taking some bourbon with me. In any event, I was talking to my buddy Mike yesterday. I hadn't talked to Mike in quite a while, and Mike reminded me of C.S. Lewis's Letter to a Child. Lewis wrote, he was very good about writing letters back to children, and he wrote a letter to Joan, who lived in the United States. They began a correspondence of 20 letters, and Joan, who was a young kid, asked C.S. Lewis about writing. And he wrote 5 things for Joan to consider, and they're excellent pieces of advice. Number 1, always try to use the language so as to make clear what you mean and make sure your sentence couldn't mean anything else. I run afoul of this one sometimes. Number 2, always prefer the plain and direct word to the long, vague one. Don't implement promises, but keep them. Number 3, never use abstract nouns when concrete ones will do. If you mean more people died, don't say mortality rose. In writing, don't use adjectives which merely tell us how you want us to feel about the thing you are describing. I mean, instead of telling us the thing was terrible, describe it so we are terrified. Don't say it was delightful. Make us say delightful when we've read the description. You see, all those words, horrifying, wonderful, hideous, exquisite, are only like saying to your readers, please, will you do my job for me? And number 5, don't use words too big for the subject. Don't say infinitely when you mean very. Otherwise, you'll have no word left when you want to talk about something really infinite. I want to focus on that last one. There's a method to my madness here. Let me read this one to you again. Rule number 5 from C.S. Lewis to Joan, a child asking him for writing advice. Don't use words too big for the subject. Don't say infinitely when you mean very. Otherwise, you'll have no word left when you want to talk about something really infinite. I was reminded of that. First, I had this conversation with my buddy Mike, and he reminded me of it, and then it came flashing back to me when I read a headline for the Wall Street Journal. It is an opinion piece from John Bolton. Kash Patel doesn't belong at the FBI. At the National Security Council, he was less interested in his assigned duties than in proving his loyalty to Donald Trump. The president's constitutional obligation to take care that the laws be faithfully executed requires even-handed action in the national rather than his personal interest, a distinction Donald Trump doesn't grasp. His oft-stated intention to seek retribution against opponents, if implemented facially, contravenes the take care clause. Too many of Mr. Trump's personal selections evidence his assiduous search for personal fealty, not loyalty to the Constitution. Kash Patel's nomination as director of the Federal Bureau of Investigation squarely fits this pattern. Now, look, I have a lot of respect for John Bolton. He and I did have an exchange on my show, one of the few people I've interviewed who wrote a book, and I wanted to ask him, why did you save all this stuff for your book, all these accusations against Trump? Why were they saved for the book instead of like out at the time? And he didn't really have a good answer for it. Here's the problem, and it goes back to C.S. Lewis. When you've used the words over and over and over, you lose the ability to use more expansive words. If something is not infinite and you call it infinite, you can't then, when you stumble upon infinite, use that word. It's muted. The power of the word is gone. You know, words have power. Words have power. If you don't believe me, let me give you a great example of words having power. In fact, I suspect you all know about this particular story. Let me find the specific chapter here, because I want you to understand how powerful words can be. Here we go. Yes. Right here. Yes. Sorry, I'm just getting to the right point. Yes, here we go. So Jesus goes to his friend Lazarus. Lazarus has died. And what does Jesus say? Lazarus, come out. His words had power. Lazarus, come out. You know, side note, a lot of people say, well, this wasn't in the Synoptic Gospels, it wasn't in Matthew, Mark, and Luke. Why does John have it? Well, the traditional understanding is that Lazarus lived for quite some time afterwards, and Matthew, Mark, and Luke had already come out. The Romans would have hunted him down and killed him. So John waits until John was very young, and John lives until 99 AD, and tells the story of Lazarus. Lazarus would have been known to people, but they kept it out of the main scripture. They didn't want the Romans hunting him down and trying to kill him. In fact, John says it actually was raising Lazarus from the grave that actually was the trigger to implement the plot to kill Jesus. Now, nonetheless, I digress on that point. I get that question all the time when I bring this up. But Jesus says, Lazarus, come out. Words have power. There is probably one of the greatest evidences of words having power. The other one, let there be light, and there is light. Words have power. And when you use the words over and over and over again, the words begin to diminish in power. You, not God, and you know what I mean here. When you say something's horrible, this is bad, and this is bad, and this is bad, and this is bad, and this, nothing's ever good. Pretty soon, nothing's bad. If everything's bad, nothing's bad. You need a new word. My wife gets mad at me. I guess it could be called a verbal tick. One of the things I say regularly is, it's not bad. I can eat the best meal on planet Earth, and I will probably say, not bad. Rarely do I say something's incredible. Although I do have to tell you, my wife made a meal the other night, and it was incredible. And I said it was incredible, but usually not bad. It all starts to blend together. Think of the boy who cried wolf, 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 and finally at the end they don't come. He's used the same thing over and over again. Words have power. And here's the problem, and this is the point. And some of you are wondering, Erickson, can you get to the point? Stop getting distracted. The point is this. Every single time Donald Trump picks someone, this is the worst pick ever. It's terrible. They're only concerned about loyalty to Donald Trump. That's all they want. It's loyalty. And every single person is always its loyalty to Donald Trump. And every single person is the most awful person ever. And every single person is the most unqualified ever. And every single person is the most unfit ever. And if they're all the most unfit and they're all the most unqualified and they're all about loyalty, then none of them are about loyalty, none of them are unfit, and none of them are the worst pick ever. The Democrats and Trump critics have repeatedly, constantly, and consistently always used the same worst words, and they have always jumped to the worst possible words. They have no words left to talk about when they actually meet the worst thing ever, because they've declared everything the worst thing ever. And if everything is the worst thing ever, nothing is the worst thing ever. Think about all the lists. You had the list of all the national security people saying the Hunter Biden laptop was a fraud, and it turned out to be true. You had the list of all of them saying that Donald Trump was going to destroy the economy, and he's not going to. You had the list, yesterday, the list of we must stop Robert Kennedy. All these experts say stop Robert Kennedy Jr. All these lists come out, all these names, all these people saying it's the most unqualified ever. Think of all the military personnel, the senior leadership who came out, and national security people and said, Donald Trump's the worst thing ever, don't elect him. At some point, nobody believes you anymore. Your words have no more power. Just let's go back into stories from Scripture. So when the Israelites leave Egypt, they see during the day a pillar of cloud, and at night it turns to a pillar of fire, and it stays with them. And over time, it becomes so mundane, they're like, hey, God's not here, let's go sin. There's a pillar of fire right in front of you. You're like, nah, can't be. Been there the whole time. Not a big deal. Let's go. Imagine if Jesus just walked around every single day and the Bible said, healed, 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 healed. Wake up, wake up, wake up. You're not dead. You're not dead. You're not dead. Healed, 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 healed. I mean, that when the Bible becomes that, it becomes such a mundane thing. In Scripture, in these stories of the miraculous and the healings, they're all very unique, and very rarely is it the same thing over and over. It's Jesus had the power to bring people back to life, but it's not something that's in the Bible like done, done, healed, healed, healed. Arise, 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 arise. It just kind of wear you out in the story. Like move on with the plot. And it's the same way with this, where the Democrats are like, oh, worst ever, worst ever, worst ever, worst ever, worst ever. They're not the worst ever. They've fallen into a rhetorical trap in trying to stop Donald Trump. So many people no longer care. And I have to tell you, as someone who has concerns and has voiced concerns about some of Donald Trump's picks, I myself am at the point where I'm like, might as well confirm them all. I really don't want Robert Kennedy Jr. at HHS. I think he would be terrible. But when I hear the Nobel laureates, he would be the worst thing ever. Really? He'd be worse than Dr. Fauci, who you guys love. Really? He would be worse than the last guy. Really? He'd be the worst thing ever, the most unqualified ever. Really? You've got a dude who thinks he's a woman at HHS, totally anti-biology, totally anti-science. You think this is going to be the worst thing ever? What's worse, Robert Kennedy or the dude who dressed up like the dog to have sex and stole women's luggage at the energy department? What's really worse? When everything is terrible, nothing is terrible. People have got to rein in their vocabulary. Don't use words too big for the subject. Don't say infinitely when you mean very. Otherwise, you'll have no word left when you want to talk about something really infinite. Listen, please, Democrats, members of the media, anti-Trump Republicans, please, if you're not going to listen to me, listen to C.S. Lewis. Welcome back. It's Eric Erickson here across the United States of America. Glad to have you guys with me. The phone number, 877-973-7425. Should you wish to be on the program, if you text ARMY to ARMY, that's ARMY for those of you in real into, text it to 33777. You can sign up, be an activist for us. You can sign up, help us grow the show, reaching out to stations. We would love to have you on board the effort. And also, as Congress goes back into session, we'll be firing up the Activism Center to get you to tell members of Congress to oppose the Biden National Labor Relations Board pick. We'll be turning that action on this week, trying to get Republicans to actually show up for the Senate. So Biden wants to pick a member of the National Labor Relations Board who is a pretty far left person. I mentioned yesterday, if all the Republicans show up and Joe Manchin and Kristen Sinema either don't show up or oppose the pick, the Republicans can block Joe Biden from stacking a majority of progressives on the National Labor Relations Board until 2026. who would be able to thwart parts of Donald Trump's agenda. So Republicans are going to have to show up. It's one reason to text the word Army to 33777. When we flip the switch, we will be able to generate phone calls to your senators telling them to stay in Washington, show up for the votes, and make sure the NLRB board pick does not happen. A value add for the show, I pay for that out of my pocket and able to fire up get you to fire up the phones and things like that. It's well worth it. We got a lot more to talk about, but before we go anywhere else, I just want to mention again, I'm going to be in Jacksonville tomorrow. I'll be doing the show live, but it's such a great event down there. So the WOKV, my affiliate in Jacksonville, they raise money every year. I participated in their Carathon, which is modeled on the one I do with my flagship station, WSB in Atlanta, and it was it was wild to me what this Children's Cancer Fund does in Jacksonville, Florida. They literally will help families cover their costs of room and board. If they got to come over for the kid, they can pay for the mortgage, or they can pay for groceries. It's one of the most charitable things I think I've ever encountered. And so, I was moved by the spirit, so to speak. I do a big bourbon and barbecue event every year in Atlanta, raises lots of money for Children's Healthcare of Atlanta. I was like, you know what? We should do this for Nemours down in Jacksonville as well. I'll do this. So I am literally carting. So I shipped a lot of bourbon to Jacksonville. And then they were like, should we have more? Well, the lawyers don't only want me to bring so much, but I'm going to carry a few more bottles with me, assuming they don't get smashed by Delta. I'm checking my bag to take bourbon to Florida for this event. It'll be a good time. Those of you listening on WOKV, next year during the healthcare during the Carathon, you'll be able to bid on this. We got 50 people coming tomorrow, so I'll do the show tomorrow from Jacksonville, do the event, and then I got a flight back home tomorrow night. Now, I need to tell you, before we move on to coffee prices, you're going to stick around for this. Eden Pure, the Thunderstorm, is available. You can get 3 of them, save $200, get them for less than $200, and they've redone them. So the old one, it was kind of the size of a paperback book in black, thick and in black. You still hold it in your hand. The new one is silver. It's more compact, and it actually packs a wallop. This one, interestingly enough, generates plasma. So as the air is pulled through it, bacteria, viruses hit the plasma. 99.9% of them are eliminated. And it gets rid of pollen, and it gets rid of pet dander, and it gets rid of dust. And then it eliminates odors because it also generates ozone. And the ozone actually gets into the atmosphere of your house, and the molecules of the ozone hit the odor ions of whatever odor is there and wipe them out, eliminating all odors, dirty diaper odors, litter box odors, you name it, they're all gone. The Eden Pure Thunderstorm, you can get 3 of them at EdenPureDeals.com. EdenPureDeals.com. The discount code ERIC3, ERICK3 at EdenPureDeals.com. Again, ERICK3, EdenPureDeals.com. Welcome back. It's Eric Erickson here. The phone number 877-973-7425. If you want to be on the program, delighted to have you. I mentioned the coffee prices story, and this is related to a bunch of other stuff, but I am a big coffee drinker. I drink several cups a day. It's good. I like it. Now, I put a little milk and a little sugar in mine. I don't, rarely will I drink. I'll drink it black, but my preference, my wife has an asbestos mouth. My wife can put scalding hot things in her mouth, and she is fine. I put something moderately warm in my mouth, I get a blister. I was at the Falcons-Chargers game. The Chargers won the other day, and ordered pizza, and the piece of pizza was so freaking hot. It literally, I can still feel the roof of my mouth where the blister was from, 2 Sundays ago. It just, my gosh, it was, so I add milk to cool things down. I don't want cream. I don't want half and half. I don't want oat milk, almond milk, any sort of nut milk. Just give me some regular milk. Skim 2% or whole. Nothing fancy, please. I don't like half and half. It's just too thick. No, I want milk. Nonetheless, I drink a lot of coffee. There's a place in Atlanta called Rev Coffee, and I love their coffee. In fact, I just ordered a 5-pound bag of whole coffee beans because we have a Jura coffee machine, and you just pour them in the top, and you touch a button when you want your coffee, and it grinds the beans perfectly to the exact specification you have and gets the temperature exactly the way you like it. I am a coffee snob. Y'all, I got this coffee machine. Tangent, I realized tangent. I got this coffee machine. And I was going to send it back because it was way too expensive. But it was like you could make interest-free payments over time. And I didn't actually realize that if you qualify, they were going to ship it to you. And literally, I tried to cancel the order, and they sent it. So, of course, I'm like, I should try it. Oh, it was good. And I was like, I can't do this. It's so freaking expensive. And then my wife was like, I might miss this if you send it back. So I blame her, but it's wonderful coffee. We love it so much when we travel, we take our coffee machine with us. It's big and heavy, and it's wonderful. And we get coffee we get like the Guatemalan or the Nicaraguan or the El Salvadorian coffee's the best to me. Costa Rican as well. Costa Rican coffee's phenomenal. I like a light roast because it has more caffeine, and we grind the beans, and it's delightful. I'm not big into the African roasts. No, it's not. It has nothing to do with race. Stop it. It's just I like the flavor profile of like the Central American coffees better. Colombian's fine. Costa Rican, El Salvadorian, Nicaraguan, yes, fantastic. And Rev Coffee in Atlanta, you can Google them. They've got the best. I love them. I've tried coffee places all over the country. I love Rev. Now, I got to move back into the main story, which is that these coffee bean prices are higher than they've been. Coffee prices have soared to their highest level in nearly 50 years due to poor weather in Brazil and Vietnam, forcing roasters such as Nestle to raise prices and consumers to hunt for cheaper brews amid the cost of living crisis. Spiking prices will benefit farmers with the crop this year, but challenge traders who face crippling hedging costs on exchanges and a scramble to receive the beans they pre-bought. Production problems linked to bad weather in Brazil and Vietnam have seen global supplies lagging demand for 3 years. That's left stocks depleted. Last time coffee traded this high was 1977 when snow destroyed swaths of Brazil's plantations. Now, I don't buy Brazilian coffee, but yes, coffee prices have gone up. Coffee prices have gone up. And you know, the environmentalists are very happy about it. Why? Because just the other day, there was some chit-chatty conversation among intellectual elites in Europe, and they were like, oh, every time you drink coffee, you're contributing to climate change. We should give up coffee. You know, one of the wild things on social media, so I guess you could technically say I'm an influencer. I saw actually on a story the other day that some people now, their life goal is to be a social media influencer. Listen, I know people who are D-bags, but I never thought it was a life goal to be one. And that's apparently that. I mean, that is what a social media influencer is. Someone who sets out to be a social media influencer. Totally so. And one of the wild trends of social media influencers is the products that they pitch you. I try never to do this. Follow me on Instagram at E.W. Erickson. Rarely will you see me tell you should buy something. And if it is, it's because I really like it. I don't put my advertisers in Instagram because it's where I actually like to show you how I actually live. And so you may see my Eden Pure Thunderstorm with me, but I'm not there flogging it as a product in an ad. It's just I actually travel with one and use it. Or like Rev Coffee, this isn't an ad. I love buying my coffee from there. So I'm telling you, but I wish RecTech that does the pellet grills was an advertiser. Do you know how many RecTechs I've sold people? I just love my RecTech. And my Fontana, my wood-burning pizza oven that I got. I love that company. That family's wonderful. It is a wonderful outdoor pizza oven. Can cook 4 12-inch pizzas at a time. It's glorious. I'm going to cook a lasagna in the wood-burning oven soon that I make the noodles from scratch. Nonetheless, I digress. Lots of tangents here, people. I'm sorry. It's just the way my brain is working today. All that being said, the social media influencers, one of the things they've tried to do is mushroom coffee, like mud coffee. And essentially, it's not coffee beans. It's like ground up mushrooms. You might as well take your Aunt Doris out of the urn and put her in the coffee pot and pour hot water over her. There's no way in hell I want to drink your mushrooms or your Aunt Doris. I just want my coffee beans. And this wild perversion of the eco-warrior set to, we should be drinking ground mushrooms or Aunt Dolores, as opposed to coffee beans because of global warming. The world can burn. I'm not giving up my coffee. It is the freak environmentalists out there who are insistent that we got to give up every luxury in life. Like this weekend, Philip, I think I'm grilling New York strips. And the environmentalists hate that too. Now, I'm grilling mine from an environmentally conscious farm in South Georgia. Discover this place, Lily Farms. They're on Instagram, as a matter of fact. I found them there. I actually followed them, and now they're serving up ads. Like, I might as well get some New York strips from them and see. Look, I get New York strips from Omaha Steaks. I want to try a local farm in Georgia. I just want to see and grill them up. And the left, oh my gosh, they want us to get rid of our coffee now. They want us to get rid of our beef now. Is it any wonder people aren't embracing their agenda? They might as well tell us to all not have sex and hold our breath, and we'll all die and not have children, and the environmental leftists will be absolutely happy, and the rest of us will be dead. I think I'm going to die if I can't get my coffee every day. Y'all, I got to tell you, again, tangent. When I first got married, for the first 6-8 months of marriage, I thought my wife hated my guts. And I finally had to ask her, because she'd get up in the morning, she would say nothing. Now, I knew as well, I was snoring so bad. Like, I've had sleep apnea. When I was skinny, I had sleep apnea. When I was real fat, I had sleep apnea. I have sleep apnea now. I have terrible sleep apnea. And after my blood clots, they make me sleep with one of those CPAP things for the pulmonary pressure. They're like, you'll die without it. So I sleep with it. But my wife had to sleep in the guest room for a while because I was snoring so bad until she made me cut the little dangly thing out of the back of my throat, the uvula, and that solved it for a while. Then it came back. Nonetheless, my wife forever wouldn't speak to me in the morning. Wouldn't speak to me. I was convinced I had done something really wrong. And finally, one morning, I was like, okay, you refuse to speak to me in the morning. What am I doing at night other than snoring that makes you so mad? And she's like, I don't talk to anybody in the morning. I got to have my coffee first. If we couldn't have coffee, my wife would never talk to me again. She's got to have her coffee. She's got to be caffeinated to engage in the day. And I get it now. I have become that person. You can tell. I've had quite a bit of coffee. Y'all, I've had a lot of coffee today. I'm just going to admit it. Hence the tangents. Nonetheless, environmentalists don't want to give up their private jets. They don't want to give up their Malibu mansions on the eroded coast of California. They don't want to give up anything, but they want us to eat bugs and drink mushrooms or Aunt Dolores instead of coffee. They want us to eat synthetic meat that is not good for us. Forever, we've been told by our health community that the less processed food we have, the better it is for us. And now we got to eat highly processed synthetic meat. In fact, there was a story, where did I see it? Ultra-processed food might increase the risk of colon cancer. Fatty, salty, and sugary ultra-processed foods could be increasing people's risk of colon cancer by spurring chronic inflammation in the gut. In a new study, colon tumors taken from people with poor diets had higher levels of pro-inflammatory biochemicals, as well as lower levels of substances that reduce inflammation and promote healing. Researchers reported Tuesday in the journal Gut. Of course, that's the name of it. And now you want us to eat the impossible meat and the beyond meat? The beyond any chance that I will ever eat this meat. And now they're trying to do beyond an impossible chicken and things like that. The most processed food imaginable grown in a lab. But the environmentalists don't care. If we all get cancer and die, they'll say we're doing it for Mother Earth. These people are insufferable. They want to take away the fine things in life without them sacrificing anything. And that's the thing that really yanks my channel. Just listen, I understand I make good money. And I probably have higher income than most of my listeners. I'm sure I do. I grew up middle class. I grew up wildly in the Middle East, and we traveled a lot and stuff. But we were maybe upper middle class, but we were middle class. A lot of luxuries we couldn't afford growing up. You know, my daughter got a new car when she turned 16. Me, I didn't get a car until I went off to college, and it was 10 years old when I got it. But though I am definitely in a higher income space now than many of my listeners, it enrages me, the arrogance of the environmentalists who want the poor and the middle class to give up their lifestyle and their luxuries and the things that make them happy and do more expensive things at higher prices to benefit an environment that no one's going to be able to enjoy. It's no wonder these people keep losing. It's no wonder they keep losing. Their message is not one of hope, it's one of despair. Their message is not one of calm, it's one of anxiety. Their message is not one of reason, it's one of hysteria. And it's all designed to target the little guy. My buddy Glenn Reynolds, Instapundit, has a great line. He says, I will believe climate change is a problem when they start acting like it. When they give up their jets and their mansions, I'll believe them. When they give up their coffee, still not going to give up mine, but I'll at least consider it. And I'm certainly not switching to the ground mushroom stuff that the social media influencers try to convince me is just as good or better than coffee. It's not, because it's not coffee. If I wanted ground mushrooms, I would order the ground mushrooms. I don't trust people who do. They're probably all serial killers. It's like the people who drink the athletic green stuff. Just go eat yourself some freaking broccoli, people. Nonetheless, I digress again. The environmentalists are losing, and they're getting more angry, and they're going to get more and more radicalized because of it. If they just change their message, they might be able to do something, but they're too arrogant to do that as well. Now, speaking of arrogance, a lot of big banks out there have gotten very arrogant. They treat you like you need them. They don't need you. It's one reason I didn't go to Duke despite getting a scholarship. They were very arrogant. All these banks out there, they're like, oh, you need us. We don't need your business. We got corporate business. Well, then there's Old Glory Bank. They are conservatives. They got some humility about them. They're trying to grow the bank, and they'd love to have you involved. As conservatives, for conservatives, you're not going to worry about your bank getting canceled because they find out you're a right-winger. They are too. And your business, my gosh, they're going to take care of your business. They would love to have your business checking and savings account. I have my personal accounts with them, checking and savings. I got no fee checking, no fee savings. I still get a good interest rate. They've got very competitive interest rates. They do CDs, mortgages. They do car loans, home equity lines of credit, things like that. They do it all. They're a real bank out of Oklahoma. They would love to have your business. All you have to do is go to oldglorybank.com. Oldglorybank.com. Member FDIC, equal housing lender, terms and conditions apply. Welcome back. It's Eric Erickson here across the United States. The phone number, well, too late. I got to rush to the airport after this. Y'all, I wade in to the fighting over Robert Kennedy and the arguments over corn syrup and the like. There appears to be a fight in the making over corn syrup. This is from the New York Times. The headline, Kennedy's war on corn syrup brings a health crusade to Trump country. When Donald Trump said Robert Kennedy Jr. could go wild on health, he might not have expected his pick for health secretary doing battle against the president-elect's own voters. This is how it begins. Jonathan Weissman. The Archer Daniels Midland wet mill on the outskirts of Decatur, Illinois, rises like an industrial behemoth from the frozen, harvested cornfields of central Illinois. Steam billowed in the 20-degree cold last week as workers turned raw corn into sweet, ubiquitous, high-fructose corn syrup. 3 miles away in Primmett Mill, which sprawls across 400 acres, divided by North 22nd Street, was doing the same. To Robert Kennedy Jr., this bedraggled city set deep in Trump country is the belly of the agribusiness beast, churning out products, he says, poison Americans, rendering children obese and its citizens chronically ill. To the workers, those mills are their livelihood. Okay, dichotomy here. High fructose corn syrup versus sugar in soft drinks. So my wife likes to buy what is commonly referred to as Mexican Coke. No, not the white powder stuff, Coca-Cola. Coca-Cola God himself drinks. It doesn't have high fructose corn syrup. See, here's what happened. Back in the 80s, you'll remember, some of you, before Philip was born, there was New Coke, and people were enraged that Coca-Cola decided that it had to switch to New Coke. It had to change the formula to compete with Pepsi, and it tasted more like Pepsi, and people revolted. There was a huge news story back in the day. So Coke went back to what they called classic Coke, but when they switched back, it was with high fructose corn syrup, not with sugar. In Mexico, however, it's still made with real sugar. Now, there's a difference. I cook sometimes in recipes, barbecue sauces and stuff, and reduction made with Coca-Cola, and you have to use Mexican Coke because high fructose corn syrup doesn't cook well. It in high heat, it breaks down and burns very easy. If you use Coke with sugar, it caramelizes. It's actually better. It tastes a little better, too. I actually think it tastes better than the high fructose corn syrup version, which kind of tastes a little chemically to me sometimes. But here's the problem. We subsidize corn syrup and we tax sugar import into this country. The reason soft drink manufacturers and so many businesses switched from sugar to high fructose corn syrup is trade policy. When corn syrup is subsidized by the government and sugar has a tariff by the government, the importation of sugar, well, prices go up for the one and go down for the other. The whole reason people switched to high fructose corn syrup was the tariff issue on sugar in particular. And then the government does subsidize the corn industry in this country in various ways, and it's all about economic policy. You want to fix the problem. That's not the Secretary of Health and Human Services that needs to be involved. It's the Secretary of Commerce and Secretary of Treasury that need to be involved. It is completely an economic issue. I'm a big fan of getting rid of high fructose corn syrup in things and moving back to real sugar. Not the raw sugar crap, but the real granulated sugar. It would be preferable in a lot of recipes and soft drinks and things, but we'll see if Robert King, I'm not opposed to him trying to do it, but it's an economic issue, and it's going to blow up in their faces given the economics of it. You guys have a great day. I'll be in Jacksonville tomorrow.